With the second pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State.
But you know as they say, hail to the Redskins. Let's roll, man. Let's go.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Luke. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report. Trent Williams trade finally done, and I've got so many different things to kind of get off my chest. There's so many layers to this, and a lot of emotions too. That's part of the reason you see some of the black on. Now, it's not all bad. That's why it's not all black like the Omen, just half bad. That's why it's half shirt black, hat's not black. So, and I'll explain. But the first emotion is resolution and relief. Okay, finally it's over. I was so done with this like 6 months ago. I was done with this in the summertime. I wanted this to be over with a long time ago. I was done with this at the trade deadline, and then I was done with it again at the beginning of this offseason. I was done with this day one of the draft. I was done with this day two of the draft. So I've been looking for resolution to this situation for quite some time, as have most of you as Redskins fans. So from that standpoint, this is a relief. However, we talked all draft. We talked all offseason. We talked all lead up to the trade actually happening that Ron wasn't going to give him away. And that I said, Ron's not going to sit at the lunch table. He'd rather starve than take a half-eaten peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He's not going to take your half-opened and half-eaten bag. I want my peanut butter. And look, at the end of the day, Ron was hungry. He was starving, man. And he needed to. And the 49ers, you're going to give me a sandwich, and it's going to be peanut butter and jelly. I'd like my peanut butter to be crunchy. Well, this was smooth peanut butter, okay? Well, fine. If you're going to give me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and the peanut butter is going to be smooth, at least let me have jam. I don't actually like jelly. Can I have jam, please? Well, it's actually jelly. Okay, so I struck out there. All right, well, can I at least get my bread toasted? I like my bread toasted. Can I have my bread toasted? Nah, not exactly. Here, take this soggy bread. So I don't get my crunchy peanut butter. I don't get my jelly. I get jam, and I don't get my bread toasted. I get some soggy bread. Essentially, what I'm telling you is this isn't enough. While I wanted this situation to be done and over with, and I am relieved that there is finally resolution, and I was ready to wash my hands clean of this situation, a 5th round pick this year and a 3rd round next year is simply not enough for Trent Williams. It's not. Now, let me say this. The Redskins' hands were tied behind their back. All right? This was a hostage situation. And they had to do something. And this is what they ultimately decided on. And if you believe the rumors, and I do, I personally believe that Trent Williams and his representatives nixed the trade to Minnesota, a la Antonio Brown pretty much telling the Buffalo Bills, who were set to give the Steelers a 1st round pick for Antonio Brown, I don't want to play for the Buffalo Bills, and that pretty much nixed that trade. I feel like the same thing happened here with this particular deal. The Vikings were going to give the Redskins reportedly a 4th round pick and a 3rd next year, which is better than a 5th round pick this year and a 3rd next year. And oh, by the way, I think the 49ers are a better team than the Vikings personally. The Vikings could go back to being mediocre this year and not make the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. A lot of turnover on that roster. And that pick could be a lot higher. I think the 49ers are going to be good. I just do. So that pick, more likely than not, going to be the back end of the 3rd round. Okay? So I would have much rather had a 4th rounder this year and a 3rd rounder next year from a team that I think is not going to be as good as the 49ers. Instead, we get a 5th round pick this year. All right. And we're going to get a 3rd round pick probably at the back end of the 3rd round. Call it a compensatory pick, if you will. Essentially what it's going to amount to. So I don't think it's enough, but the Redskins really didn't have a choice. You can go and blame Trent if you like. I'm not going to blame Trent. I'm not going to blame his representative, even though I think he's a buffoon. And I think he got some bad advice throughout this entire process. I don't blame any of them. And, a lot of you are going to be upset at Trent. Oh, he can forget about the Ring of Fame. And look, time heals all wounds. We'll see how you feel about Trent in this whole situation 15 years down the road, 10 years down the road. But I can say this. I blame all of this on Bruce Allen, okay? He should have never been here. This should have been done a long time ago. We should have gotten a first-round pick, at worst, a second-round pick at the trade deadline last year. And Ron Rivera and Kyle Smith shouldn't have had to deal with this whole situation. This never should have happened, and we shouldn't be sitting here talking about the Redskins receiving a 5th-round pick this year and a 3rd-round pick next year for an all-pro tackle. That's not how this was supposed to end. But it did, and you know what? As disappointed as I am in the compensation, I'm just relieved that it's over, okay? So we don't have to answer any more questions about what's going to happen with Trent Williams. Do you think he's going to come back and play? I already told you guys there was no way that he was coming back to play for the Redskins. That relationship was unsalvageable. It was over. Irreparable damage had been done on both sides. There was no way this was going to be repaired enough to where he could come, sit down at the table, and they hash this thing out. That opportunity came, it went, it was gone, never to return again. So I wasn't expecting him to play, and I told you guys as much. I don't anticipate Trent Williams playing for the Redskins ever again, and I told you guys I thought it would happen during the draft. Now, I thought it was going to happen day 1. I thought there was a chance it could happen day 2. I did not think it was going to happen today. I'm going to be really honest with you. You know, something else I figured out is that the whole centerpiece to this deal, and I think you guys might have put the pieces of the puzzle together and you started connecting dots like I did. The whole centerpiece of this entire deal was Sadiq Charles. All right, and hey, I mocked him to the Redskins, so I expected this. What did I tell you guys at the very end of the draft party yesterday when I told you my prediction for the pick in the 4th round for the Redskins at 108? I said the Redskins are going to take tackle Saahdiq Charles. They talked to him. They vetted him. They found out why he was suspended, which was for weed. You're not going to be suspended at this level for weed. So they pretty much had to talk to him and let him know, look, if we're going to spend a pick on you, that you're going to have to come in, you're going to have to work, and we're going to have to make sure that you stay on the straight and narrow and make sure he understands what the Redskins are looking to do moving forward. It sounds like he's a really good kid, that he just needs guidance, and that's great. Hopefully, the locker room leaders like Thomas Davis will be able to put their arms around this kid and get him to perform at a high level on and off the field. But that's another story for another day. We'll talk about Sadiq Charles here in a second. I said all of that to say this. He was the centerpiece of this deal. You notice that soon as the Redskins were on the clock and Cincinnati didn't take Sadiq Charles or didn't trade the pick, as soon as Cincinnati announced their selection, the Redskins announced the trade. So that tells me they weren't going to make this deal until they got their guy. And the second Sadiq Charles was still on the board with them on the clock, the deal was made. So had Minnesota still had the deal on the table, we wouldn't have known about it until Sadiq Charles was in the basket. The Redskins were shopping. They put Sadiq Charles in their shopping cart. And the minute they knew they could get to the checkout counter with Sadiq Charles in their cart, that's when they allowed this trade to go down. So this was in the works, folks. This was in the works since day 1 of the draft. All right. This was going on behind the scenes, and the Minnesota deal was going to be done today. And Trent nixed it. All right, his people, they vetoed the trade. For whatever reason, he didn't want to go to Minnesota. That's fine. It's done. I don't even care because 4th and a 3rd wasn't going to be good enough for me either. All right, bottom line is the Redskins did what they had to do, and Sadiq Charles was the centerpiece of all of this because they felt like if they could get their left tackle of the future, they could just give Trent away essentially for whatever it took to move on from the situation and wash their hands clean of it. He doesn't want to be here. We want to create a culture where guys want to be here and buy in. So you're going to have to move on from guys like Trent Williams, and they did, but they weren't going to do it without knowing they had his replacement on the roster. They got Sadiq Charles, and that's when you saw this trade done. So you're not telling me anything. This deal was already in the works, and as soon as Sadiq Charles was wrapped up, they then made the trade. So he was the centerpiece to all of this. Getting Sadiq Charles was the centerpiece to making this deal go. Had they not gotten Sadiq Charles, I don't know if this trade actually happens or not. Maybe they wait until they get another tackle at some point, or maybe they draft another guy. I don't know. But Saahdiq Charles, to me, was the centerpiece of the deal. And really, it worked out beneficially for the Redskins because Saahdiq Charles could have been gone. Someone could have taken him at the back end of the third round. He could have not been here for the Redskins. Then what would they have done? Maybe take another tackle, but he was the most talented guy on the board. That's why I was okay with taking Saahdiq Charles in the fourth round. You know, everybody was, oh, does Antonio Gibson play left tackle? No, he doesn't play left tackle, okay? But there's still a guy capable of starting for you day one in this draft in Saahdiq Charles. That's second round talent that was there in the fourth round because of off the field issues that teams didn't really have an opportunity to vet him because they didn't get to bring him into their building. So if a scout told them, an area scout told them, hey, this guy's bad news, they were going to stay away. Well, the Redskins did their due diligence. They took it a step further and said, we're going to make sure we talk to this guy and figure out what's going on because we intend on spending a pick on him in this draft to move on from Trent Williams. It got done. I'm happy that this situation is over with, as many of you are. I'm not happy with the compensation. No one's going to make me happy about this compensation. But at the end of the day, it had to happen. Their hands were tied behind their back. They weren't going to get compensation with Trent just sitting there. At some point, you got to go with the New England Patriots model, which is just get something for the guy. All right. And so that's exactly what the Redskins did here. And I'm glad that this situation's done. And now let's talk about Saahdiq Charles quickly, and then we'll jump into a couple of comments on Saahdiq Charles. If we got any super chats, we'll read those, and then I'm out of here. Today wasn't supposed to be a day where I was going to be here chopping it up with you guys during the draft. I might stick around until 142. We're 17 picks away just to see what the Redskins do there and talk about the pick, and then I'm getting out of here. So Saahdiq Charles is a very athletic. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can pull up my breakdown of Saahdiq Charles. I think I've already done this with you guys. If not, because I know I mocked him to us, I don't think I actually broke him down on the mock draft. So I'll do that here. Let's see. Let me pull up my Saahdiq Charles breakdown real quick. Give you a brief synopsis of what the Redskins have gotten here in offensive tackle Saahdiq Charles out of LSU. And I thought he was by far and away the best guy available on the board at the offensive tackle position. So you're talking about a guy that's a little bit shorter than you would like at the tackle position. Again, I don't nitpick with those things. The arm length, the height, all of that stuff, that's for the birds. You know, the only time I complain about arm length is when I see guys getting into your chest and bull rushing you and you're not able to keep them at bay. That's when your length becomes a problem. But if you're able to keep guys at bay, then I don't bring up your arms. The only time I start to bring up arm length and things of that nature is when I see it as a real problem. So 6'4", 321 pounds, 33-inch arms, considerably shorter than teams actually like. When you start talking about a left tackle in this league, generally you want 34.5-inch arms or greater. He's definitely well below that threshold. But again, I really don't care about it. Athletically gifted, ran a 5.05 at the combine. You know, 40 times. Who really cares about that when you're talking about an offensive lineman? But just slightly over a 5 tells you that he is definitely athletically gifted, and that's one of his best traits. He started 9 games at left tackle this past year for the national champion LSU Tigers. Why was it only 9 games, even though they played 15 this season? Because he was suspended for 6 games. More than likely than not for weed. So, again, that's part of the reason he's sitting here for the Redskins to select in the 4th round. Again, this is a second-round talent here in the 4th round because of some off-the-field issues. He started 28 games in his career at LSU out of a possible 32. He started 26 at left tackle, 1 at right tackle, and 1 at right guard. So there is some versatility there. If you need to move the offensive line around and shuffle around some pieces, you can do that with Saahdiq Charles. So right now, his strengths, I got athleticism. He's got good knee bend. All right, climbs to the second level with ease. That's part of that athleticism that I was mentioning and his ability to move. He's an easy mover. Gets to the second level, gets out there on kick-out blocks. He's able to get out to the perimeter on screens and things of that nature. Recovers extremely well. He's not fundamentally and technically sound right now, which is another reason I had him as a day 2 pick, possibly into day 3, round 4. And only reason I thought about round 4 was because of the off the field. So really, to me, he was supposed to be a day 2 pick. Anywhere from rounds 2 to 3. I didn't think he would get to round 4 unless you started to add in the off the field issues. But nonetheless, he recovers extremely well. So when he gets beat initially off the snap, whether it's with quickness or a guy slaps his hands down, and he's able to then get back into the play and either push that guy around the pocket and allow the quarterback to step up, or he's able to wash that guy inside and allow the quarterback to then sidestep, reset, reshuffle, deliver the football. Awareness. I love his awareness. Not enough guys in college football come into the league with awareness. They don't react to color well. And that's a problem. When you see color flash in front of your face that's not your own, you need to react to that. So if they're running a twist or a stunt, you're blocking this guy, and look, you got to know who the MDM is, most dangerous man. That's the guy you got to block. The most direct path to the quarterback is straight, north and south. So if there's a guy coming to your outside and there's another guy coming straight up the B gap, as a tackle, you need to take care of that guy coming up the B gap. That guy on the outside has a much longer distance than the guy coming up the B gap. So if you see that flash of color out of your peripheral, you need to not worry about that guy, but pinch down on the guy coming inside. Or if they're running a twist and you see them looping around a defensive end inside of you, you got to be able to get a piece of that guy. He reacts very well to color, and so his awareness is really good for a guy coming out of college. He's got tremendous upside, only been playing the offensive line for 4 years. So when you talk about a guy that is a slab of clay, you're talking about a guy like Sadiq Charles, still a very moldable offensive lineman, not stuck in his ways, a guy that can continue to grow and mature at the position. He sustains blocks. He's one of these guys that just works until the whistle is blown. He stays on his block. He continues to drive guys down the field 3-4 yards. And even though he's out of the play and the play may be on the opposite side, he's still busting a guy's ass in front of him. So I love the fact that he's one of these guys that competes, and you can tell he loves football. Somebody's scoring a touchdown on the other side of the field and he's jumping up and down. He's running all the way down the field into the end zone to celebrate. He's one of these guys you can tell he actually loves the game, and I love that about Sadiq Charles as well. And also, he battles and holds up versus the bull rush. Now, he can struggle with it at times, but he's one of those guys that initially will give ground on the bull rush. You may drive him back 1 or 2 yards, but eventually he will dig his heels in and he will sit his ass down, and you will not drive him any further, and you will not collapse the pocket fully, and that quarterback will be able to deliver the football. So now you get to his weaknesses, and there are some weaknesses here. Impatient with his hands in pass sets, will overextend and end up lunging and end up off balance. That's something that can be corrected. That's correctable. All right. But he is one of those guys that gets antsy. When he gets in pass sets, he wants to reach. Because again, he doesn't have longer arms. So he's trying to make first contact. And in doing so, he's too aggressive and he starts lunging. He starts leaning forward, and all of a sudden his weight is not evenly distributed. And now a guy slaps his hand down and he goes flying. Now he's out of the play. Can't recover. So he's just got to be a little bit more patient. Learn how to use his punch. Learn how to keep a guy at bay and not be over anxious to get his hands on these defenders. Here, he's susceptible to the inside move, spins in particular. When you watch him against Big Cat Bryant when they were playing against Auburn, Big Cat spun on him 2 plays in a row. And my thing is, look, if somebody gets you with a spin move one time, okay, you got me. But they can't get me with a spin move on the very next play. That's not happening. And he spun on him the first play. Okay, he caught me off guard. That was a surprise. He hadn't spun all game long. That's cool. But then to do it on the very next snap and get me again, that's problematic. I'd like to see him be able to pinch him down inside a bit and not allow him to spin and end up in the lap of the quarterback. So that's something that, he's going to have to get better at, and I think he will get better at. And then finally, he's just raw. You know, I talked about a guy that's only been playing the offensive line for 4 years. He's raw. His footwork needs work. His hand placement needs work. His base needs work. He's a guy that's a work in progress, which is why I wasn't opposed to drafting him and him not having to start right away, especially being that we're not going to have OTAs, even though you don't do a lot of technical work in OTAs anyway, and minis and all of that stuff. But it would have been nice for a coaching staff to get their hands on him, to maybe see some of the things on tape that they feel like need to be corrected and get a head start on it. We're not going to have any of those things. We may not have an extended training camp for him to work on some of this stuff. So, it'll be interesting to see if they still bring in a veteran to start ahead of Saahdiq Charles, or if they say, hey, this guy's ready to go as is. We'll correct him on the fly and keep it moving. But he's a guy with some things he does need to correct. But again, when you look at the talent and the raw ability that he has, there's no mistaking that the Redskins got potentially a steal here in the 4th round with Saahdiq Charles. He missed 3 games due to injury in 2018. I don't really... Killing wasn't a major injury, but that's just something on the Carfax. And then obviously also on the Carfax, the 6 games he missed due to a suspension. And we assume it's for a weed violation. So that's Saahdiq Charles in a nutshell. Redskins get their tackle. I thought this would happen. Remember, I mocked this. I told you this at the end of the draft party yesterday when I told you what I thought the Redskins would do at the top of the 4th round. And I think they're going to go after tight end here shortly. We're going to see how the tight end position shakes out. I've seen, and I haven't really been paying attention, but Albert O, I saw him come off the board to the Denver Broncos. So another tight end gone off the list. I didn't want Albert O anyway, to be honest with you. So that's not a big deal to me. But I know that the tight end position is starting to thin out a bit. So I'm going to pull up really quickly what the tight end position looks like in terms of who's left. And we can start to discuss that. I see some super chats, so I'm going to get to those here in a second. Read those, and then we're going to move on. And like I said, I'm going to stick with you guys until 142. We're at 128 right now. And then after that takes place, I'm probably going to get out of here. But let's take a look at the tight end position quickly and see who's available. Colby Parkinson out of Stanford is still available. Hunter Bryant out of Washington is still available. Bryson Hopkins out of Purdue is still available. Jarrett Pickney out of Vanderbilt is still available. So those are some of the big names. Thaddeus Moss out of LSU, still available. Charlie Warner out of Georgia. Sean McKeon out of Michigan. So these are all the guys that are of note that are still available. And so the Redskins will probably have a crack at one of those guys if they see fit. At this point, the guys that I just mentioned, there are about 2 or 3 of them that are legitimate potential starting tight ends in this league. Not many of them are. So if the Redskins don't get one in the 4th round, at this point, I'm looking at the 5th round and saying I really don't care about the tight end position anymore because you're not getting tremendous value at this point. You might as well throw one of those guys in the rest of the ring with the guys that we already have. And if you're telling me one of those guys is going to emerge as a tight end number 1, good luck. I just don't buy it. So if they don't act quickly on the tight end position at 142, and again, that's assuming that 3 or 4 more of these guys don't come off the board before the Redskins select. And then for me, it's a wash with the tight end position. And at that point, I'm good on the tight ends. You could draft one, you could not draft one. It really wouldn't make me one bit of difference because to me, there would be really no value at that point of the draft. So anyhow, let's get to some of these super chats quickly. Barrett Downing, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciated. BD, my man Barrett writes, that's the juice box we talked about, LOL. Essentially, that's exactly what it was. I didn't get my crunchy peanut butter. I got jelly instead of jam. I didn't get my bread toasted and instead was soggy. But it gave me some nourishment for my body. Ron's no longer starving at the table, at the lunch table, okay? He was starving, and at some point he knew he needed to put something in his belly. It's not what he was looking for. It's not what I was looking for, definitely, but it is what it is. CJ Shoots Photo, thank you for the super chat. CJ Shoots Photo, he writes, sign Jason Peters, 1-year deal. Safety, Sadiq Charles will be depth. If you're, you're supposed to be able to separate and compartmentalize. But the same guy that represents Trent Williams represents Jason Peters. I don't even know if the Redskins at this point even want to interact with this guy. I don't even know if they want to talk to him about his client. That's how bad he has butchered this entire situation. All right, so I don't even know if the Redskins are interested in Jason Peters because of the guy that represents him at this point. They may be more inclined to go back to Donald Penn if they were looking for a veteran than to go and talk to Trent's representative once again to try to get Jason Peters on board. So I don't even know if that's even something that Ron Rivera and Kyle Smith even want to deal with at this point. Thank you for the super chat, CJ Shoots Photo. CGM87, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. CGM87 says, trade that third for OJ. I'm a Virginia Tech fan, but Logan can't be our top tight end. We're starving at that position. Also, like Charles, hope he's a good citizen. We'll see what happens with Sadiq Charles. I don't trust him. He's got 2 first names. You know how I feel about that. So I don't trust Sadiq Charles. He's got 2 first names. As for the third round pick we got next year, look, the Buccaneers aren't giving OJ Howard away. Again, they have no reason to. Okay, the Redskins had their hands tied behind their back. The Buccaneers don't. They don't have to do anything with OJ Howard. He's got 2 years left on his deal. And it's a rookie deal. I think he's only owed something like 3 or 4, maybe 5 at the most $1 million this year. Like, it's not a ton of money that they're paying OJ Howard. He's still a talented guy. They said they have no problems running 2 wide receiver or 2 tight end sets. He doesn't have to be traded. So they're not going to give him away for a third round pick. If I'm the Buccaneers, the conversation starts with the second. If you're not offering me a 2, I'm not trading OJ Howard. It's as simple as that. So I don't think a 3 would get that deal done from Tampa Bay. And if I'm the Buccaneers, I'm cool with holding on to my stuff. I don't have to give him away. So, and remember, Gronk is only going to be there for a limited time. He's a rental. It's not like Gronk is 26 years old in the prime of his career. Gronk is only going to be there as long as Tom Brady is there. And right now, it looks like Tom's going to be there for 2 seasons. That's probably as long as Gronk's going to be there. And once Tom's gone, Gronk's gone. So those same 2 years, you have OJ Howard. If he continues to progress, then you re-sign OJ Howard. So if I'm Tampa Bay, I'm not looking to get rid of a young tight end. So I don't see that happening. Sonny Rawson says, AGG still on the board. Could he be a legit number 2? Absolutely, he could be, I think. Teams were disappointed, and that's why I thought he would fall with his 40 time. That's not dissuading me because the guy's a red zone target. He's a guy you can throw the 50-50 ball to. As you see now with the drafting of Antonio Gibson, we've got plenty of speed on offense now. We're not hurting for speed. We're not deficient in the speed department any longer on offense. So I'm not worried about his inability to separate or his inability. He's physical. His separation comes with his size. He's a big-bodied wide receiver that can go up and get the football. So for me, none of that matters that he ran a 4.6. The fact is he has strong hands. He can go up and attack the football in the air. That's what we need, and I'd like to see the Redskins add a player like that. But again, we'll see what the Redskins' frame of mind is because, again, I've heard that the Redskins are going to use Antonio Gibson more as a running back and more of a chess piece like that than as a wide receiver. So if that is the thought process, indeed, they still may be in the market for a wide receiver. But we will see what happens as I'm watching these selections go by. And so, yeah, he's still on the board at this point. Thank you for the super chat, Sonny Rawson. Barrett Downing, thank you once again for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. Double up, for my man, Barrett Downing. Barrett says, Trent is playing for the same contract, and that's what's crazy, but good riddance. Well, this is the thing. He just wanted out. And at this point, he wanted to go to, I think, a place where he thinks he's going to win. I don't think he feels like they're going to win in Minnesota, but he sees, and he's really comfortable with Kyle. He knows Kyle. He loves Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan loves him. And so there is a mutual respect that's already in place there. So I think that was part of the impetus for him wanting to go out to San Francisco is because A, they were in the Super Bowl last year, and Trent's never really been on a winner here. And B, he also looks at a situation where I know the head coach there, and I'm really comfortable with him, and I love their system. So it made a lot of sense for Trent to want to go there. At the end of the day, I could care less about what Trent really wanted. I wanted the compensation was what I was interested in, but also you don't want to trade for a player that doesn't want to be there. Like, you want a player to want you, and if that player doesn't want to play for you, why would you trade for him? It just doesn't make any sense. So Trent would have to be on board, essentially. Like, the Redskins were never in control. As much as we wanted to feel like we were in control of this situation, the Redskins were never really in control of this situation, because Trent could conceivably sit out another year and the Redskins would be on the hook for $12.5 million. They may not have to pay him, but that salary cap is being occupied and they're not going to be able to get that back. And they're not getting a 3rd round pick for him if he leaves in free agency next year. They were only getting a 5th round pick, which is probably why they were willing to take a 5th round pick this year, because they realize if we don't move him, we're only getting a 5th. If we move him now, we're getting a 5th and a 3rd. So again, it all makes sense, but at the end of the day, he's worth more than that. But again, their hands were tied. So thank you for the super chat, Barrett Downing. I'm glad that this situation is over as well. Let's see. We're 11 picks away from the Redskins at this point. Andrew Shirley says, 49ers fan here. Love the trade for both teams. Definitely bittersweet considering Staley's retirement. What can you tell me about Williams' play? Is he better than Staley? Yes. I don't really need to explain to you that Trent Williams is a potential Hall of Famer. Joe Staley is not. That's all you need to know. All right. I don't have to really explain to you. He's way more athletic than any tackle you've ever seen in your life. And you're getting a guy that may not be able to stay healthy. That's been one of the bugaboos of Trent Williams throughout his career, is he's going to play through injuries. He's a tough son of a gun, but he's one of those guys that he's going to get nicked up. You know, whether it's an ankle or it's a calf or it's a knee or it's a thumb, it's always something. So you're going to have to deal with that. But when he's on the field, Trent Williams at 85% is still better than 95% of the tackles in the league. So for what it's worth, you're getting a stud. Is pretty much all I can tell you. JP says, we have Bruce Allen to thank for this nonsense. And I've already pretty much laid that out. So you can be mad at Trent. You can be mad at Taylor, his representative. Knock yourself out. I'm not wasting my time nor my energy on those guys, because this should never have come to be what it ended up being. He should have been gone last year, and the Redskins should have been drafting with 2 first-round picks this year instead of just 1. Andrew Shirley says, looking at some of the recent reports, it looks like there was less and less teams in contention every day. If the 49ers didn't pull the trigger, would he have even gotten traded? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. That's hard to say. As you can see, it took them this long to offload him. So obviously there weren't that many suitors involved. It really looked like either the 49ers or bust at this point. Either the 49ers are going to have to come and take him off our hands, or he wasn't going to be traded, at least not at this point. But obviously, there was still plenty of time before the season started. Anything could happen. You never wish injury on anyone, but injuries could have occurred for other teams, and all of a sudden they get desperate as they get closer to the season, and a guy like Trent Williams becomes really valuable, and a team is willing to part ways with something that they wouldn't have been willing to part ways with at this very moment. So it's hard to say, but it looked that way. It appeared that the 49ers were one of the last teams seriously interested in making a deal here. Hunter Weiss says, hey, Louis T., did you like the Redskins pick at 66? He's electric on the field. Can't wait to see him light it up on the field. I've done an entire video on that. So if you're looking for how I feel about Antonio Gibson, watch the video that I put out earlier today. Let's see. Chris Kersling says, love your soggy bread and jelly analogy, but happy he's gone. We need a new culture. He seemed poisonous. We'll miss his talent, though. Trent was a good dude. Blame Bruce. I agree with everything you said just now. it is what it is. He was a really talented guy. When he was on the field, I never worried about left tackle. Never once did I have to worry about what was going on the blind side of the quarterback and what was going on in the run game on the left side of the offensive line. But that's gone. That's dead. He's moved on, and I think we're all relieved. I think that's the perfect word to describe the emotion right now, is just relieved. Like, okay, finally, it's over. We don't have to talk about this anymore. So I'm just fortunate for that. Excuse me. Let's see. Oh, and let me go back to this super chat real quick from CGM87, who said he's a Virginia Tech fan, but Logan Thomas isn't the answer in terms of your top tight end. I don't think we have a TE number one on the roster, and I'm telling you right now, if the Redskins don't act on the tight end position at 142, and again, you're still a full 8 picks away. The Seattle Seahawks selection at 133 is coming in as we speak. And they just took a tight end, Colby Parkinson, out of Stanford. So again, the pool of tight ends is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. So, not a lot of options left for the Redskins as another tight end was taken. And so Colby Parkinson now off the board, and he's no longer available. So, as we continue to look at this draft and these tight ends coming off the board, we're now 8 picks away from 142. I honestly believe that the Redskins at this point aren't even considering like needs like how we're thinking about it. They're just looking for the best player available. I think the need situation was tackle. That's the one they had to have. Like, they couldn't field a team without having a tackle, at least on the roster, because there's no guarantee that they'll, even go out and reach out to a veteran or what may have you. They needed to draft a replacement for Trent Williams. That had to happen. You don't have to draft a receiver. You don't have to draft a tight end. They got 97 tight ends on the roster right now. None of them are starters, but that's really not of their concern right now. They really needed to do a deal for Trent that was going to net them a 3rd or 4th round pick before their last 4th round pick, which would have put them in a much better position to get one of the top tight ends that was already in a weak tight end class to begin with. So you're getting a top tight end in a weak draft class. That's not saying much to begin with. Now you're telling me you're picking from what's left of what was already a weak tight end class. Do you see where I'm going with this? So at this point, if you're looking for real value, you're probably looking at a different position, not tight end. So there's still some guys, though, worthy of a selection here. And if you're the Redskins, you can just take Thaddeus Moss in the 5th round. He'll be there. He's not a 4th round pick, guys. I know a lot of you fell in love with Thaddeus Moss, and you've fallen in love with the fact that his last name is Moss. He's a 5th round tight end. He'll be there in the 5th round. The Redskins just picked up another 5th round pick. It's at the back end of the 5th round, so it's not going to help us very much. That Seattle pick that we have is much sooner than the 49ers pick that we just got. So if he's there in the 5th round, I don't have a problem with them taking Thad Moss. He's going to give us a chance to at least have a guy that looks and resembles a tight end number one. I don't even know if he's even that at the next level, but he'll give you a shot to put a guy out on the field that at least can catch and will block at worst. So we'll see what they decide to do. But the value, as you continue to see this thing play out, we're now 7 picks away from the Redskins at 142. The value is becoming increasingly less and less at the tight end position and more at a different position like wide receiver, cornerback. You look at some of the other positions, maybe safety is a position that the Redskins take a look at. Maybe interior offensive line is something the Redskins covet. There are other options available for the Redskins. They do not have to force tight end here, just so you guys are aware of that. And a lot of you have to get out of this mindset of we got to draft a tight end or we got to draft a corner. Like, you don't have to do anything. All right. The Redskins have corners on the roster. They probably like a couple of them. The Redskins have tight ends on the roster. They may not be starters, but they got tight ends on the roster. You don't draft for need. That is how you end up being a bad football team. You draft best player available. Always. That's always the case. Now, this is when you draft need. Let me explain this to you so you understand this concept. Best player available. If I evaluate a guy with a raw score of 93, but he's a linebacker and I don't necessarily need a linebacker, or let's say he's an edge rusher. I don't necessarily need an edge rusher, but you can never have too many edge rushers. And I evaluate the next guy at a 79, but he's at a position of need. And that's tight end. Am I going to take the guy that I evaluated at a 93 or a guy at 79? It's a no-brainer. You take the guy that you evaluated at a 93. That's how your team gets better. Now, if I evaluate a guy at 79 at linebacker and I got a guy at 78 at tight end, and tight end is my position of need, 79 is linebacker, it's not, then I take the guy lower graded, but it's a position of need, so you're almost at equal or slightly less, but equal or greater value. Then you take the guy at the position of need. If the two prospects are even, essentially, all right, you take the need. That's the one you need the most, so you take the need. But if the two aren't equal, one superior to the other, you don't settle. That's how you end up getting fired as a coach or a GM. You take the best player available. That's how you get better. You find ways to get talented football players on the field. Everything will take care of itself. If you get enough talented football players, they will win for you. You will figure it out. The problem is when you go reaching for players that are talented, you end up with a roster tackle. If tackle isn't of value right now, you don't take one. If tight end isn't of value right now, you do not take one. You guys have to start thinking like GMs think. That's why the draft goes the way that it goes. You think you need this, they take that. Why? It's simple. That guy was highly rated on their board and the position of need wasn't. He wasn't close enough. Because if the two are close enough, then you go with the position of need. I hope that concept resonates with you. I hope you understand what I'm saying to you. All right. Let's see. I think I saw another super chat. Give me a second. No, I didn't see another super chat. So I will read. Yes, I did see another super chat. Actually saw a couple super chats. So let's get to that one. CJ shoots photos. Double up. Thank you for the super chat. And thank you for doubling up. CJ writes, cornerback at 142 best fit, Amik Robertson or Bryce Hall. For me, it would be Bryce Hall. Bryce Hall is the kind of corner that looks like the kind of guy that Ron Rivera really likes. Like I went back and forth between Bryce Hall and Reggie Robinson on my mock draft when I ultimately went with Reggie Robinson. And by the way, he was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, who are absolutely murdering the draft this year. I know you guys don't want to hear that, but they are. Anyhow, they took Reggie Robinson out of Tulsa. Bryce Hall was a guy that I passed on because he's got an injury history. He tore his ACL last season. Not this past season, but in 2018. He missed the 2018 season with a torn ACL. He played in 2019, but he's got the kind of length and the kind of ability that Ron Rivera looks for in his corners. The comp that I keep hearing for him, and I kind of see it, is James Bradbury. That's the comp that everybody has for him. So you think about that. Let that sink in. Ron Rivera was a part of the group in the decision-making process that drafted James Bradbury out of Samford some 5 years ago. And now here's a guy sitting right there for him to be selected in Bryce Hall that a lot of people are comping to James Bradbury. So it just gives you a little insight into what people view him as and the kind of corner that Rivera has had success with throughout his career. But that being said, Amik Robertson is a little bit smaller of a corner, and the kind of the same principle that I talked about with John Reed, the cornerback at Penn State. Had he been taller, you're talking about a guy that would have probably went in the second, third round, somewhere in there. But because he's a shorter corner, you get pushed down the draft board. So I think you're going to see Amir Robertson probably not be selected until we're probably talking the 5th round or so, maybe even the 6th round. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But Bryce Hall, for me, would be the guy that would fit the defense the best if you're looking for one of the two that you just posed. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. Ray Riley, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciated. Ray Riley writes, what do you think about Tyler Johnson at 142? No need to reach for a tight end. I'd love him at 142. I told you, he smells, he feels, he looks like a number 2 wide receiver at the next level. I think Gab Davis just came off the board. Gabrielle Davis out of UCF. That was another big wide receiver. I'm not a big Gab Davis fan, however, but I think he just came off the board. I'm going to check. Okay, Bryson Hopkins, tight end for Purdue, just came off the board to the Rams. So, again, there's really not a lot left at the tight end position, folks. That's pretty much been ravaged at this point. And so I wouldn't even bother with tight end at this point. I'd wait till the 5th round and take Thad Moss if I were the Redskins with one of my 5th round picks. I wouldn't even bother with the tight end position. It's not worth it now in the 4th round at 142. That being said, Gab Davis went to the Buffalo Bills at 128, so he's gone. Colby Parkinson, as I mentioned, went to the Seahawks at 133, and Bryson Hopkins just came off the board to the Rams at 136. The Jaguars are now on the clock, and the Redskins are officially 5 picks away from making their selection, so we'll see what happens there, but I would be ecstatic with getting your hands on Tyler Johnson. And just as an aside, I see ESPN is doing a montage on Cameron Clark. That was the guy that I mocked to the Redskins in the 5th round that the Redskins had talked to, so that means they were very interested. I don't see him. Oh, he got picked by the Jets. So Cameron Clark is no longer available, and that was a guy the Redskins really, really wanted in the later rounds. I don't think they were willing to spend a 4th round pick. Maybe he would have been the selection. Had they got on the board and he's still been available, maybe he would have been the selection. They really liked Cameron Clark out of Charlotte, which is the guy that I mocked to them in the 5th round. He's gone. He's a New York Jet, so he's no longer available. So that's another guy that the Redskins probably had on their wish list, no longer available. The Jaguars pick is in. We're waiting for them to announce it, but the Chiefs are officially on the clock. So now you're 4 picks away from the Redskins making a selection to wrap up their 4th round. Let's see if we got any more super chats. If not, I'll read some more comments. Let's see. JK Man says, I wish they wouldn't play live music during the middle of the draft. They need to commit to analysis of each player. Just one more day, then ESPN can go back to not airing sports. Look, they're trying to do the whole, raise money for the coronavirus and the COVID-19 epidemic and pandemic. So, yeah, I look, this is why I don't watch day 3, because it's a lot of them not, they're catching up on picks. They're behind, and it moves so rapidly, and they're doing other things other than talking football. And this is why I generally don't tune into day 3. I've got better things to do with my day than sit around and watch them try to catch up. They're 4 and 5 picks behind, and then you draft a guy and they don't even talk about him. They skip over him. And so I generally stay away from day number 3. Again, the only reason I'm even here is because of the breaking news of Trent Williams getting traded. And I felt like hell. I'm already here. We're talking Sadiq Charles. I might as well hang in there. Redskins have another 4th round pick. And so that's exactly what I plan to do. Fat Brad Pitt says, our 5th round picks are 10 and 16, so not that far apart. So if the 49ers, I think they made some trades. So their pick in the 5th round is the 10th pick. If what you're telling me is correct, I haven't substantiated this. But if what you're telling me is correct, then that's an earlier pick than the one that we got from Seattle, because they were the 16th pick in the 5th round. Because I was upset because we lost 14 positions in the 5th round by trading Dunny, by trading for Kyle Allen and then trading Dunny away. We got our 5th round pick back, but we moved back 14 spots, and I wasn't all that thrilled about that. So if you're telling me we got the 10th pick, we actually moved up 6 spots. from where our other pick is that we got from the Seattle Seahawks. So that's actually a win of sorts. It still doesn't make me feel any better about trading Trent Williams for a 5th round selection this year and a 3rd next year, but it does heighten the chances that you're able to get a guy that you may be interested in, a la, if they are even interested in, because we don't know this to be a fact, if they are in fact interested in a guy like Thaddeus Moss. So Josiah Scott was the pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars out of Michigan State, the cornerback. I think he was the final corner I had him on my list of corners. So the corner position really thinning out, as I mentioned. Not a lot of big names left on the board at the cornerback position, but the Chiefs pick is in. The Raiders are now on the clock. So we're officially 3 picks away from the Redskins and their decision as to what they're going to do at 142. We'll discuss that, and then I'll get out of here. Let's see. See if there are any more comments. Yeah, I don't see any more comments. So we'll just keep going with this. And then and remember, if you're out there and you're new to the program, welcome. First and foremost, subscribe to the Louis T Network. Like this video. Make sure that you follow me on IG. Louis T Network _ is the handle on IG. And if you're in the comment section and you want your comment to be read, use the hashtag Louis T Live to have your comment read on the air. So with that being said, got another super chat. This one from my man Hong Kong Fui, #1 private eye. All right, my man says, AGG, I watched tape, great hands and size. I've been saying this the entire time, which is why I fell in love with him. No, he's not a burner. You see it on tape. He's not fast. And he ran a 4.6, so that substantiated that. But that's not why I'm interested in him. He's a big body. He's got a big frame. He's got a huge catch radius. He knows how to use his body to shield away defenders. He goes up and gets the football, can catch it in traffic, strong hands, everything that you're looking for in a big, physically imposing wide receiver. He brings it to the table. So I think there is a bright future for him if he lands in the right spot. And I'd like that spot to potentially be here in Washington with the Redskins. So Raekwon Bell says Bryce Hall in round 4. We'll see what happens. Kevin Finley says, who do you want the Skins to grab now? Honestly speaking, it doesn't really matter to me, but I'll give you a couple names that stick out as we get a little bit closer. The Chiefs are announcing their pick now. Let's see who they take. And they took L'Jarius Sneed, safety out of Louisiana Tech. So I want the Redskins to take one of 2 positions. Personally, I'd like to see them take a corner or a wide receiver. So again, at the receiver position, AGG is available. And so is Johnson, Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota. I'd have no problems with either one of those 2 guys. Love both of their games. Think they fit in perfectly in Washington. And if you view Antonio Gibson as more of a running back, then you probably could use yet another wide receiver. Wouldn't hurt to draft one. So I personally would take a receiver. But, you know, if they wanted to go in a different direction, they wanted to go corner, there are some guys still available. Most notably, Bryce Hall still available. Let's take a look at the cornerback situation and talk about the corners that are still available in this draft. I wish I had my list, but it's not on this stream. It's on my draft stream. So I can't pull up my list of corners. But let's see. Bryce Hall still available. Javaris Davis out of Auburn is still available. Again, another one of these corners that's kind of on the short side is Javaris Davis. He's more of a nickel to me than a boundary corner. So again, when you start talking about some of these corners, you got to be wary of, you know, their size. And that's why a lot of these guys haven't been drafted, is because of their size. Then you start really getting into some dangerous territory. When you start talking about, you know, Dane Jackson and Stanford Samuel and some of those guys, I think you kind of get into the danger zone at the cornerback position. So I'm not really that enthused by a lot of the names. So if you're not talking Bryce Hall, I'm not really that. I'm really not that intrigued by any of the names really left at the cornerback position. Let me hold on. Let me double check real quick before I say that. Because there are a couple of guys that Kendall Vindel out of Georgia State is a guy that I haven't watched enough tape on him, so I don't want to sit here and try to sell you on a guy. But I watched a little bit of him when I was doing my mock draft just to get a feel for him in his game. He's a guy that's a little interesting out of Georgia State, so that's another name to look out for in Kendall Vildor out of Georgia State. But not a lot of guys that move the needle for me. I know a lot of you guys kind of liked the cornerback Lamar Jackson. I think you just liked him because he was big at 6'3". I don't really like his game at all. So there's that. But anyhow, I would personally like to see them go wide receiver. That's just me. But I like receivers. So I'm kind of biased. Anyhow, let's see. Got another super chat. This one from the Great Watubi. Thank you for the super chat, Great Watubi, who writes, what about Hunter Bryant, tight end, or Amik Robertson, corner? I'm good on Amik Robertson. He's a really small corner. I don't think we got a small corner already in Jimmy Moreland. And it's not to say Jimmy's 5'8" or whatever, but Jimmy's a small guy. He's not a big, physically imposing guy, that's why everyone wanted to kick Jimmy inside, because he's not an overly big cornerback. So I'm good on Amik Robertson, but I'd be interested in. I'm lukewarm on Hunter Bryant. The talent is there in terms of athleticism and that sort of thing. He just doesn't block. We've been down that road before. I just don't think I want to go down the non-blocking tight end road again. Even though we have guys on the roster right now currently that probably can block, I'm good. I'd like a more versatile tight end. I'm not going to force the issue at the tight end position. If they went that direction, I wouldn't be upset, because I know the guy has a skill set that we can utilize, but he's not a complete tight end. And I don't think he'll ever be a complete tight end, because I don't even see the want to in terms of blocking with him. I don't even see a guy that really is interested in blocking. And that's a problem, because we've already had a guy like that. We were willing to put up with it because the athletic talent was far, far better than most tight ends in the league. I don't think that's the case with Hunter Bryant. I don't think he's that exceptional of a talent that you have to forgive him for not blocking. I don't think that's who he is as a player. So, and just, by the way, Amik Robertson was drafted by the Oakland Raiders. So you can stop throwing him out there as a name. He's off the board. Anyhow, so let's get back to the super chat though. Big Simple 422, appreciate the super chat. Big Simple, greatly appreciate that. The Redskins are one pick away from being on the clock. The Raiders took Amik Robertson two picks ago, and the Jaguars took Shaq Quarterman last pick. So now the Texans are on the clock, and then the Redskins will be up in the fourth round. Big Simple writes, what's up, T? Been watching you for some years. Keep doing your thing, bro. You inspire me to do Redskins content. We litty. I appreciate you, man. And do that Redskin thing, man. Do it. You definitely will have some support, man. So do that thing. Anyhow, yeah, I would be fine with a wide receiver. I would be fine with a corner here. Let's take a look at the safety position real quick. Let me see what's available at safety that might intrigue me. That's another position that I wouldn't mind the Redskins taking at this point. Don't know. Antoine Brooks Jr. from Maryland is still available. I wouldn't necessarily mind him. Josh Metellus is a guy that I mocked to the Redskins. I think I mocked him to the Redskins in the fourth round, as a matter of fact. I wouldn't mind Josh Metellus. So, there may be some there's some stuff at safety that I wouldn't mind the Redskins. Redskins are officially on the clock now. So we're going to find out what the Redskins decide to do. John Reed, god damn it, the corner from Penn State was just taken. That was a guy that I liked as a nickel down the road. I had him mocked, I think, 6th round. I had the Redskins trading up in the 6th round. Obviously, I told you in my mock draft, I didn't anticipate him making it there, but that was my mock draft. So John Reed just went to the Houston Texans, and I really like John Reed. He's gone now. So anyhow, Redskins are on the clock now. We're literally minutes away from finding out who the Redskins selected in this draft in the 4th round. And I'm going to read a couple more comments while we wait. Let's see. Mr. TNA 2005 says, I love what the Broncos did. They have a new quarterback and they're surrounding him continuously, which is my philosophy. They've done a magnificent job of just drafting talent after talent on the offensive side. You thought it was enough that they already had one tight end in Noah Fant. They went and drafted another one in Albert O. They went out and got KJ Hamler. They got Jerry Jeudy. I mean, and they already had talent out there. That was the crazy part. So the Broncos have definitely taken their young quarterback and given him all the weaponry he could ask for. Now they just got to protect him. That's really what it boils down to. The Redskins pick is in. So now we just simply wait to find out what it is. Meanwhile, Miles Markin says, as a draft prospect, where would you grade Haskins in this class? Redskins take AGG, Antonio Golden, Gandy Golden out of Liberty. We got our guy. Liberty, 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 Liberty. Got our guy, AGG. It's the guy that I wanted the entire time. I talked about him as a potential 3rd round selection. The Redskins get him here in the 4th round. I couldn't be more ecstatic. I told you that I thought AGG was a difference maker. He gives the Redskins something they've lacked: size at the receiver position, a real red zone target that you can throw it up to, strong hands, physically imposing wide receiver. I'll read you my breakdown of AGG. I've got it right here. I'll pull it up for you guys. I'm really excited about that pick. Like I said, my man Kyle Smith hasn't let me down yet, and I don't think he will. He's done a magnificent job in the draft since he's gotten here, and he continues to do a magnificent job. I'm really proud to say that I've been all over this draft for the Redskins. I thought that the Redskins could get AGG. I wanted them to get him. I didn't think he would be around this long, but I said that they needed a big receiver. They added one. I said they were going to get Sadiq Charles. They did. Obviously, we all knew they were going to get Chase Young. I like to toot my own horn. When I get a chance, toot, toot, I'm going to toot it. Anyway, I'm excited. Redskins get a big-time wide receiver, and I know I liked him probably a little bit more than most, but sue me, okay? Antonio Gandy Golden breakdown coming at you right now. So, Antonio Gandy Golden, wide receiver out of Liberty, 6'4", 223, ran a 4.6 flat, which is what pushed him down draft boards. Look, 4.6 at his size, plenty fast for me, okay? If he's one of those guys, if you fall asleep behind the wheel, he'll run by you, okay? So, and even if he doesn't, if you just throw it up there and you give him a chance, he's going to put his nutsack on somebody's helmet. It's what he does. So, season stats: 79 catches, 1,396 yards, and 10 touchdowns in 13 games. And this is what you have to understand. The man plays at Liberty, okay? Everyone on the schedule came into the game saying, we got to stop number 11, okay? He's the one guy that can hurt us. Let's not let him beat us. And he still managed to have over 1,300 yards, close to 1,400 yards, and 10 touches. So you know this guy is a stud, all right? Career stats: 240 grabs, over 3,800 yards, and 33 touchdowns. The big number there that you need to focus in on is the 33 touchdowns, okay? In 45 games. That's a lot of touchdowns, which means he's doing work in the red zone, which is why I love this guy, because we struggle in the red zone sometimes. We struggle to get in, and when you got small receivers, if they're not able to separate, if the quarterback isn't perfect, you're not going to score. When you got big receivers, you don't have to be perfect in the red zone. You can just throw it up. They can go get it for you. And this guy does that. Listen to what I just said. 45 games, 33 touchdowns. You're talking about pretty much every game and a half, he's scoring a touchdown. All right. This guy's a touchdown machine. All right. He was my number 8 wide receiver in this draft. His strengths, size. Obviously, at 6'4", 223. Okay. What's crazy is that the draft pick we had in the 3rd round in Gibson is actually heavier than this guy. But that's nor here nor there. His hands, A1. Strong hands. He's able to grip the football, snatch it out of the air, and that's something you gotta have when you're attacking the football in 50-50 situations, because guys that don't look back for the ball, they're going to swipe at your arms. They're going to slap at your arms, and you gotta have strong hands to be able to grip the football and not get it dislodged in that process. Ability to high point the football. That's probably his greatest attribute, is his ability to go up and get the ball. That's the thing that I fell in love with, was his ability to go up and get the ball in 50-50 situations. It works in the red zone. It works on 3rd down. Back shoulder fades work. All of that works with a guy like AGG. Physicality and run after the catch, they kind of go hand in hand. Also, this guy blocks in the run game. You want to see somebody tearing some ass up in the run game? Pause. AGG is going after guys and moving them off the spot. So he's a willing participant. And I always talk about guys willing to work for food. One of the things my receiver coach used to say, hey, if you want to eat, you got to work for food. Okay. You got to be willing to work for food. Meaning, if you want the ball, you got to block in the run game. And this is a guy willing to work for food, but not just in that department is he physical. He's physical. I think he could be a little bit better getting off the line of scrimmage. We'll talk about that a little bit later on when we get to his weaknesses. But he's physical at the line of scrimmage. You don't really want to jam this guy at the line of scrimmage because he's so big. And then when he catches the football, he's a load to bring down. He's big and heavy, man. Okay. I saw some guys make some feeble attempts at tackles. It didn't go very well. So he's got some run after the catch. Not necessarily going to make you miss as much as I'm just going to run over guys and drag you an additional 2 or 3 yards, and he usually falls forward. So I put here, nice release off the line of scrimmage. And what I mean by that is no wasted motion. When you watch him come off the ball, there's not a bunch of pitter-patting. My receiver coach would always say, hey, man, I don't need you beating up the turf. I don't need you over here dancing. I want you off the line of scrimmage and into your route as fast as you possibly can. So I don't need you dancing. I don't need the pitter-pat and all of this shoulder gyration and all of that. I need you to get off the ball and get up the field. Your quarterback is looking for you to get into that route within 3 to 4 seconds. They don't have a lot of time. It's timing. It's rhythm. I don't need you dancing at the line of scrimmage. Messes up the whole timing of the play. He doesn't waste a lot of time at the line of scrimmage. He's looking to slap your hands down, one swim, he's up the field, and he's getting into his route. So I absolutely love that about him. Tremendous body control. When you see him go make some of these catches, he's got to contort his body. He's got to turn sideways. He's got to adjust and pirouette in the air to catch the football. And for a big guy at 6'4", takes a lot to be able to move that frame around. He does it effortlessly. And so he has tremendous body control, and he tracks the football well. If you're going to be a 50-50 savant, as AGG is, you got to be able to track the football in the air. That's something that I really liked with Antonio Gibson. His ability to track the football in the air. Go and get it. While it's in the air, the DB is looking at it like, hey, it's free range. It's my route too. And you got to be able to say, nah, bro, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. All right. The ball's in the air. That's mine, bro. My quarterback threw it, not yours. I'm going to get that thing. And he is able to go and get it. So love his ability to track the football. His weaknesses, I put in my notes. Speed, okay? You can see on tape. That's not what he does. And I don't care about that. That's not why I'm drafting him. And we got plenty of speed. So that was never a concern of mine. I knew he wasn't fast. I knew what I was signing up for, okay? Limited separation with quickness. He's not beating anybody with quicks. Guess what? I got guys for that. Okay, I got dudes for that. I got Steven Sims Jr. for that. I got Antonio Gibson for that. Hell, I even got Trey Quinn for that. All right, I got guys that can win with quickness. I got Terry McLaurin for that. I don't need him to win with quickness. I got guys for the job. Okay, I need you to win and separate with size. He does that. Okay, Limited route tree at Liberty. Okay, not a lot of routes ran at Liberty, man. Essentially, the offense was, hey, get the ball to number 11. And they did a really good job of it. So it was a hitch. Hey, the receiver wants to play. The cornerback wants to play 7 yards off. Hey, get it to him. Let him run that dude over. Let him make him miss and get up the field. Or it was, hey, bruh, run 10 yards and stop and turn around and we'll throw it to your outside shoulder. So the back shoulder stop fade. And then it was, hey, bruh, run the 9 route and we just going to throw it up. Don't worry about it. So wasn't a lot of routes. There was an occasional slant mixed in, but he wasn't running the dig route. He wasn't running corner routes. He wasn't running post corners. He wasn't doing the elaborate. He wasn't running bench routes and things of that nature. So he wasn't running the full route tree that you would like to see a guy running at the collegiate level. But again, I don't care about that. Okay. Seriously. And then level of competition. As I mentioned, Liberty. He played at Liberty. Now they just became a D1 school. All right. So they were let me rephrase that. They just became a 1A school. They were, I believe, a 2A school before they moved up and officially became an FBS school. I think they were an FCS school before. So the level of competition raised this year. They were in the Sun Belt Conference, but still, it's the Sun Belt Conference. What are we talking about? So that's something to if you want to nitpick, knock yourself out. But I'll just leave you with this last caveat. 10 touchdowns receiving in each of the last 3 seasons. Chew on that for a little bit. 10. Count them. 10. A effing 10. 10 touchdowns receiving in each of the last 3 seasons. Chew on that one for a little bit. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to get to any super chats and then I'm gone. I've given you all I got. So let's see if we got any super chats. And if we don't, I'm gone. Let's see. I think I got one down here at the bottom. CGM87. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. Double up. My man CGM87 writes, AGG, we got your boy, bro. If his hands are good, it's money. Hey, look, man, I wouldn't lie to you. All right. That's not the business that I'm in. I don't sugarcoat with y'all. I don't lie to y'all. I give it to y'all real. You can take it for what it's worth. You can like it. You can not like it. I really don't care. That's the way I operate with mine. Okay. So I've never been one to lie to you guys. He's A1. All right. Everything that I've just explained to you is what you'll see if you go watch him for yourself. But there it is. AGG, a Washington Redskin. I couldn't be more elated about the pick. And so there you have it. Redskins add a receiver. So that tells you all you need to know about what they view Antonio Gibson as. He's going to be a running back, folks, which means there's some shakeups coming at the running back position. They're not keeping 87 running backs, guys. There are a couple of guys that we thought were going to make the roster that aren't going to make the roster. So let that sink in as well. Somebody's, Darius guys, Adrian Peterson, somebody's not making a damn roster. Bryce Love, somebody's not making a roster. All right. They signed all. Now, let me say this. J.D. McKissic is probably the first man out, the first odd man out, because really his skill set and Antonio Gibson's are one and the same. Now, Gibson's way better than J.D. McKissic. Way more athletic, way more dynamic. He's a unique guy. J.D. McKissic is the odd man out. And I think they signed McKissic thinking he would fill that role. And then, if they didn't get Antonio Gibson, this was the guy that was going to fill that role for them. Now that they got Gibson, I think J.D. McKissic is as good as gone. So, we'll see what happens at the running back position. I'm intrigued, but J.D. McKissic, he's gone. I never thought Peyton Barber had a shot unless there was an injury to, Darius Geis or someone like that. So the way I see it, really interesting how everything's starting to shape up, and they're starting to get some of their guys in here as they continue to revamp this roster. Antonio Gandy Golden, now a Washington Redskin. I'm your man, Louis T, signing off. I thank you guys for joining me. Remember, I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskin spirit will never die. Redskin spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. I'll see you guys on the other side of this draft at some point. probably going to be more along the lines of Monday, Tuesday, somewhere in there. I'll have to kind of digest the draft. Look, I've pretty much broken down every guy so far. So if these final 3 picks are in the wheelhouse, I may be able to come to you guys a lot sooner. But as of right now, we'll see what the Redskins do with their final 3 selections that they have. Or excuse me, they have 4 selections now. They have 2 fifths and 2 sevenths. We'll see what they decide to do with these final 4 picks in this draft and what they're able to bring into the fold. And we'll continue to see them kind of construct this roster from the ground up. I'm your man, Louis T. Until next time, you guys, take care.
Louis T Network.